Hello everyone, my name is Erica. I am a specialist in the Adult and Teen Services Department here at the Dundee Library, and this video will focus on a couple of cybersecurity settings that you can set on your devices, whether it be a phone or a tablet, to help it be a bit more secure. We do a lot with our phones. We text, we email, we bank, we shop on our devices, and if you've never looked into the settings in your phone, they are probably not the most secure right out of the box. So here are a few things that you can do to make your devices more secure. The first step is to determine what device you actually have. So here on my table, I have two devices. One is a tablet and the other is a phone. This tablet here is running iOS from the company Apple, while this device here is running Android from the company Google. Android and iOS are known as operating systems. An operating system is something that just tells the machine what to do. Without an operating system, these two would not know what to do. So you can tell what kind of device you have, usually by just looking at it. iOS is made by Apple, and Apple doesn't lend its operating system out and makes all of their own products. So an Apple device is pretty consistent. You can tell that if you flip it over, here we have the Apple logo. Here we have what kind of device it is. It's an iPad. And if you focus really closely, because the lettering is very small, it will tell you exactly what model it is. So that's how you know that if your device looks like this, you are running an iOS device. If though your phone looks like this, it is not as easy to determine what operating system you're running, because Android actually comes in very many different versions that can be inconsistent among devices. This we can tell right away is probably running Android because it is not an Apple device. If I turn it over, there is no Apple logo. I actually have, this is an LG phone. If I turn it back over, we can see way down here, and it's pretty invisible right now, but it says LG, the company. And if I turn it over, it does tell me at the very bottom that this is from the V series and it is the V20. So I can determine right away that this is probably an Android device. But we need to go a step further to determine exactly what it is that we actually have. To determine exactly which version of your operating system you have, we have to go through a few steps. I'm going to start with the iOS device or the iPad here. In order to determine exactly which version of iOS you're running, on your screen, go ahead and find the Settings app. So I'm going to tap it, and on whatever screen you happen to land on, we're going to go to General. And in General, at the very top, we have two things. We have About and we have Software Update. If we tap About, we can see that first you have the name of the device, or the primary owner of the device, or the primary user. And then we also have software version. So this device right now is running 12.4.7, which is good. Then we know exactly what it is. If we keep going down, we have model name, and this is telling me exactly that this is an iPad mini 2. There are different iPad mini, so this is the second version, and it's giving me the exact model number and then of course the serial number. If I actually go back using the arrow here in the middle, it says General, I can see in Software Update, that there does appear to be an update for this iOS version. It looks like it wants me to update to 12.6.1. I'm not going to do it right now, but that does bring up another really good point. It is very important to keep your operating system up to date. And on an iOS device, this is all you need to do. It's just the Settings tab, General, let me head on back here, then Software Update, and if there happens to be an update, you can simply tap on Download and Install, and you should make sure that your battery is somewhere near full because these can take a while. You should also make sure that you are connected to Wi-Fi, as some of these updates tend to be pretty large. To determine your operating system version on an Android device, you can place your finger at the very top of the screen and drag down. You should find this flower cog looking thing, and then you can tap it and it will take you to your settings. What you can also do is just on your screens find the settings app. And if it's not there, it might be in your app drawer. Your app drawer keeps all of your apps. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and use the app that is on my screen here. And depending on your Android version, this screen can look a little different. You can see here, I actually have it separated by categories, by network, sound, display, and general. On your device, it may be one very long list. For this device, I'm going to go to general. And then I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom to about phone. If I tap about phone, I get phone name. This is AV20. And you get network and status, battery. But what we're looking for is software info. If I tap software info, we get Android version 8.0.0. And if I just tap that a couple of times, Android has this fun little animation where, depending on your version, you can just kind of go ahead and just play around with this. Android version 8 is also known as Oreo. So this has an O, it kind of looks like a cookie. So Android's big thing is that all of their operating systems are named after food. I'm going to hit the back button here, and now we know that this phone is running Android version 8 or Android version Oreo. One of the most crucial steps to securing your device is to ensure that there is some kind of screen lock on it in order to prevent anyone from being able to just snoop right in. So here on an iOS device, you should have been asked to do this when you were setting up the device. Now, if you just didn't or you skipped it, we're going to go ahead and look to see how you can go ahead and do that now. So again, we're going to go into the settings app. In the settings app, depending on your device, this happens to be an iPad, so it's not one that can make phone calls or anything like that, so I'm not going to have all of the settings. But on this iPad, I can go down to where it says passcode. Depending on your device, you may also have Touch ID or even Face ID. But for now, I'm going to hit passcode. Now, I do currently have a passcode assigned to this device, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in really quickly. Okay, and now that I went ahead and did that, now it opens up Passcode Lock. So Passcode Lock, we actually have a couple of options here. We have turn passcode off, which is not something you should do. And no, it's convenient to just be able to swipe and access your device, but it is very insecure, especially for Apple devices, which are very coveted by thieves. So you're going to really want to make sure you have your passcode on. We also have change passcode. If you want to go ahead and make it possibly a little more secure, or maybe you've had the same passcode for a while and you want to go ahead and change it, you can go ahead and tap change passcode. Now, it's going to make sure that it is me. So it's asking me for the passcode one more time. So I'm going to put that right in. And now it's going to ask me, all right, what new passcode would you like? Now you can see that it actually defaults to a 4-digit passcode. But I do have passcode options right here. So I'm going to tap on that, and it's going to ask me what kind of options I like. We have custom alphanumeric code, custom numeric code, and 6-digit numeric code. Now, the most secure code that you can go ahead and set up is an alphanumeric. An alphanumeric code is a combination of both letters and numbers. So if I tap custom alphanumeric code, it's going to ask me, okay, what is it? And I can go ahead and input it. Now, be very mindful that you may type in lowercase letters, uppercase letters, and for passcodes, that is extremely important. Is it an uppercase letter or a lowercase letter? Now, but this is the most secure option that you can put into your device. So I'm gonna hit cancel for now. Another setting here under Passcode Lock is require passcode, and you can see it says immediately. So if I tap there, what this means is as soon as the screen is turned off and you turn it back on again, even if it's a second afterward, the setting here immediately means that it's going to require a passcode immediately again. You can't go ahead and change that, though keep in mind that the shorter amount of time, the more secure your device is. So we could have it set where after I turn the screen off, I could wait a whole minute before needing to put in my passcode again. I could have 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, or even 4 hours. Again, not very recommended, but it is an option. I'm gonna go back on Passcode Lock here. And we also have this. This is your allow access when locked. These are the notification settings that will show even if your screen is locked. So again, your screen is locked when you turn off the screen, and then maybe you just turn it back on. You haven't put in the passcode yet, so it's still locked. No one can do anything on it. But you can see that the settings here is Today View, Notification Center, Control Center, Siri, Home Control, Return Missed Calls, USB accessories. Most of these are turned on, which is not the most secure thing. Especially if you have something like Notification Center. Your Notification Center will let you know if someone has texted you, if you have an email that just came in. And it's not always the most secure thing to have on your lock screen, because anyone could just tap on the home button here. They can tap on this button here, which will make the screen light up, and your notifications will be just right there. So it would be a good idea to go ahead and just turn these off. But these settings are more catered to you, to your personal interest. Whatever you feel most comfortable with. Normally I just turn all of the settings off. Lock screens on Android can be a little trickier because of how many different versions of Android there are and how inconsistent they can be depending on your device. On this particular device though, I'm going to go over to Settings. Inside of Settings, I'm going to go over to General. Here in General, and then I'm going to go to Lock Screen and Security. Now you can see that I have many different versions here. If I head over to Lock Screen, you can see that I actually have quite a few options. I have Select, Screen Lock, Pattern, and Fingerprint. This particular device does have a fingerprint reader. Not all Android devices do though. This one does happen to have it. You also have Customize Lock Screen and Secure Lock Settings. So if I go up to Select Screen Lock, it will ask me what the PIN is. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in right now. And I'm actually going to turn this off. Alright, and now that I've entered my PIN, now I can go ahead and select something else. So you can see I have a number of options here. I have none, no lock screen. That is just where you swipe the screen and you can just start using your phone, which is not secure at all. You have swipe, which, cancel that. You have swipe. Now that I've input the code, now I have a number of options. None means that as soon as you press the button to have your screen light up, you are just in your phone. No security, no nothing. And that is by far the least secure option you can possibly have. Followed by swipe, where it will have you just swipe the screen and you're in your phone. Again, very insecure. You also have the knock code, where you can actually knock on the screen a series of times and your screen will unlock. You have pattern, PIN, and password, which are the most common ways to unlock this kind of device. So your pattern is you draw a pattern onto the screen. The PIN, just like you saw on an iOS device on the iPad a minute ago, you just go ahead and input a PIN, and then your password is the alphanumeric option, where, like I said, in the iPad is the most secure option because they're just much harder to break. Alphanumeric codes are harder to break. Some devices also have fingerprints. Now, we're not going to go ahead and talk about fingerprints right now, because each device can be a little different. So we're just going to focus on the primary pattern, pin, and password. Whatever you're most comfortable with, you should go ahead and set that up. So in this case, I could go into password, for example, and I could say require password to turn on phone. So whenever I turn off the phone and I turn it back on, before it can do anything, I need to insert the password or the code or the pin to go ahead and access the actual phone, or else it won't finish booting. This is a good security measure. So if your phone ever gets stolen and someone wants to go ahead and turn it on to see what they can do, they can't actually do anything, because as soon as the logo screen goes away, it will require some kind of passcode, password, code, pattern, anything to actually continue the booting process. So you're going to want to go ahead and turn that on if you're given the option. I'm actually going to head back because I don't actually want to change that right now. So I'm going to head on back. And then you also have customize your lock screen. So customizing your lock screen on Android typically means where do you want the clock to go? Do you want any shortcuts on it? Do you want the screen swipe effect, the contact info for lost phones? Now the contact info for lost phones is actually a pretty handy tool where you can actually have a message on the screen. Should anyone find a lost phone, you can say, if found, please contact this person, or please contact this phone number, or do something like that. Now, so that's actually a pretty handy tool that you can go ahead and use. We also have secure lock settings. So if I tap on that, here are, just like on the iOS device a second ago, here are the lock options. So after I go ahead and turn the screen off, according to this, it will take 5 seconds between turning off the screen and turning the screen back on, where it will not require me to put any sort of passcode, pattern, pin, password in to unlock the phone. Now, like I mentioned for the iPad, the shorter amount of time this is, the more secure your device is. If I go ahead and click on lock timer, I can go ahead and set it to immediately, just like on the iPad. So the second that I turn my screen off, and if I take even a second to turn it back on, it will require me to put in whatever security measure I have put on. On the iPad a little moment ago, we were also talking about notification settings and whether or not they should be seen on a lock screen. On an Android device, you also have that option. So I'm going to go back to my primary screen. Here I'm in lock screen and security. I'm going to go back. Okay, and right under lock screen and security, I also have apps and notifications. Yours might be somewhere completely different. Apps and notifications, and I have notifications. So I'm going to tap that, and you can see that right away, lock screen. And if I tap on that, it is going to give me a couple of options, where it's show all notifications. So it's just going to show, if I have an email, this is the email you received. If someone texted me, this is who texted you, etc., etc. Hide all notifications won't tell me anything at all. I won't know if I have a message or a missed call or anything like that. So a good middle ground is the middle one here. Hide sensitive information only. Anything that is account based, so any text messages or emails, you will not be able to see who sent it to you, but you will be able to see that you do have some kind of email, you do have some kind of text message. It just won't tell you who sent it. So that is a good middle ground there, because that way anyone who comes over and just looks at your screen, they'll just see, oh, they have an email, but they won't actually tell you what it is. Now that we've talked about lock screens and notification settings on those lock screens, we can get to something a little more advanced, which is advertising and app permissions on our devices. It is no secret at all that companies track user data in order to kind of direct ads towards you. It's the way it's done, but you can definitely do something about it. If you don't want some of your data to be going to these companies. We're going to start off here on the iPad. So on the iPad, we're going to go back to settings. And here we're going to go down to privacy. Here in privacy, you have a couple of things. We're going to talk about app permissions in a little bit. But first, I'd like to go ahead and go down to analytics. So here in analytics, we're going to click it. And you can't read what each one does. So just right off the bat, share iPad. That probably, yeah, iPad analytics, how much you use it, etc., etc. I'm actually going to turn that right off. Turn that off. And then you have share iCloud analytics. So that is how many times you use the iCloud. If you don't use iCloud, you don't have to worry about it. But you can also go ahead and turn that right off. Like that. And you can read far more about what it is, because you can see that each one here has different options. I'm going to go back to privacy. And at the very bottom, we had advertising. Click here, and then you can see that the very first option is limit ad tracking. Yeah, tracking. The text is very small. So ad tracking means that based on the places that you visit, the apps that you use, etc., etc., ads will be targeted toward you, and they are more likely to be ads that you may be far more interested in clicking on. Some people may find this more invasive than they like. So it is recommended in the security community to just go ahead and limit how much ad tracking can be done on your device. So we're just waiting for this to go ahead and activate. And then we're just going to go ahead and slide the option over to green to make sure that we are limiting the amount of tracking that the iPad is performing. Now your iPad is connected to an Apple ID. All of that information is heading over to Apple ID. Google does the same thing. We'll take a look at the Google settings in a little bit. We can see now that it is on. So I am actually going to limit ad tracking, and I'm going to turn that on. Okay, and now we're going to hop right out. Okay, now that we've turned that on, it is going to start limiting how much of our personal data is sent over to ad companies. And you will still see ads. If there is something that requires an ad, you will still see them. They just won't be catered to interest of yours. The next thing that we can get into is app permissions. There are certain apps that require extra permissions to function. So app permissions like access to your camera or access to your contacts or things like that. Here we can actually check to see how many apps have requested access to other apps. For example, we have our contacts here. So if I tap on contacts, we can see that currently no app on this iPad is requesting access to our contacts. If I go down to camera, for example, I can tap on that, and currently it says that both Messenger and Zoom are requesting access to our camera. Now, before you start asking, well, do I need that? Should I turn it off or anything like that? You really should ask yourself, does the camera need to be used with Messenger and Zoom? Now, for Messenger, that comes from Facebook, and odds are it's probably being used to video chat. So, probably, yes, it does require it. Zoom, very, very popular within the last year. And a lot of us use it. We use it constantly here at the library as well. And that also needs access to your camera if you want people to be able to see you. If, however, you see something weird on this list, for example, you have a game. Let's just use Candy Crush, for example. Let's say Candy Crush requested access to your camera, and you may have activated it without even knowing it. It just happens. Sometimes you're just tapping and things happen. So here you're seeing, why does Candy Crush need access to my camera? And if you can't answer that, go ahead and turn it off. You will revoke that permission. So I can go back here, and then let's see what's requesting access to my microphone. Okay, looks like Messenger, Gmail, and Zoom. Again, Messenger and Zoom make sense. That way, not just for video purposes, but so that people can hear what I'm saying. But Gmail, why would Gmail require access to my microphone? Now, I can go ahead and answer that. There are times where in Gmail, or a lot of mail apps actually, will give you access to dictate your email rather than have to type it out, which on a mobile device is actually really, really useful. So it will give you an option to go ahead and just dictate what you're saying, and it will start writing out your email. So it does make sense that Gmail is requesting access to the microphone. However, if I don't want Gmail to have access to the microphone, I can just go ahead and tap that off. And the next time that maybe I try to use the voice to text feature on an email, the iPad will just let me know, hey, I actually need access to your microphone, and you can say, oh, of course, I turned that off, and then you can just turn it back on. So it's a really good idea to go ahead and audit what apps have what permissions. In Android, because Google owns Android, we actually have to go into the Google app settings to go ahead and change the ad settings. So on this particular device, I'm going to go to settings, and in general, I'm going to find Google. Now what this will do is that it will load whatever Google account is assigned to your phone. Now a Google account is anything that ends in @gmail.com. That's a very typical Google account. So if I mention Google account, it's just that Gmail email address. So I'm going to hit Google, and it loaded the account that is associated with this device. And you can see that at the very bottom, I have ads. So I'll tap ads, and I'm just going to want to make sure that that is activated. Opt out of ads personalization. And it will make sure to limit the amount of my information that it sends out to Google. Again, you will still see ads, they just won't be catered to you. So I'm going to head on out of there. And now we can go over to app permissions. So I'm going to head higher up, and I'm going to go back to that apps and notification. Okay, and right here I have app permissions. Click on app permissions, and what it'll do, it will load, very similarly to what we saw on the iPad, different aspects of the iPad and different kinds of apps. Like you can see here the body sensors app, the calendar app, the camera app, the contacts app, etc., etc. And here you can definitely dictate, like we did in the iPad, what app can have access to things like our microphone, our phone, our contacts, our camera, etc. So if I look here, let's see what has requested access to my calendar. Okay, and it looks like the calendar app requested access to the calendar, of course. Gmail requests access to the calendar. It looks like the Google Play services request access to the calendar. And there should be one more app here. Okay, and it looks like Wear OS, so that is the app that helps me control my watch here, is also requesting access to my calendar. So all of those, I know what they do, I know exactly why they need access to my calendar, and I am okay with that. So I can go ahead and leave it. If for any reason I didn't want a certain app to have access to something anymore, I can definitely go ahead and turn it off just by moving the little dial over to the left and make sure it's gray. So you also have body sensors, you have camera, you have contacts, microphone, phone, SMS, storage, location, etc., etc. So again, you're going to want to take a little while and really audit what permissions each app has. Again, if a certain app has a permission that you don't agree with, let's use the Candy Crush example again. Candy Crush is requesting access to your camera. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Definitely turn it off. You may have activated it by accident. You may have been tapping on the screen and it pops up right away and then it went away again because you accidentally tapped it. Whatever the reason, go ahead and take some time and audit each one of these. If you do not agree with a certain permission, definitely turn it off. If the next time you go into that app definitely needs it for something, it will prompt you for permission again. Hey, this app really requires access to your camera to do the thing that you're asking it to do. And then you can say, all right, fine, I'll go ahead and allow it. The final topic that we'll touch on in this video is connectivity, both in Wi-Fi or wireless internet and in Bluetooth. Now, for Wi-Fi, we use Wi-Fi all the time in our day-to-day lives, whether it's the Wi-Fi at home, whether it is a public Wi-Fi, whether it be one here at the library or one in public places like stores and restaurants. Now, the Wi-Fi we have here at the library is fairly secure. Because we have a team that goes ahead and just checks it, and it's fairly secure. But we can't say the same for places like stores and restaurants. We just don't know what their policies are. So whenever you go ahead and connect to one of these networks, the connection point, will stay on your device, and the default settings for said connectivity, are set to automatic. Cut that. And the setting for these hotspots, it's to connect automatically. So it isn't actually asking you whether or not you want to connect to that hotspot, that connection point. If you've already done it in the past, it'll be in your list, and it'll just go ahead and do it just automatically. Now that's not always the best thing, and that is because, like I said, public Wi-Fi, we just don't know how secure it can be. The one in the library, we know it's fairly secure, but other places we just don't know. So it's better to have a really good idea of whether or not your device is automatically connecting and to what connection point. So here in the tablet, again, we continue to be in the settings app. We're gonna head on up to Wi-Fi. And in Wi-Fi, you can see I'm already connected to a connection point, and then it is going to load any available connections that it has found. Now, some of these are other devices, but at the very bottom, we have Ask to Join Networks, which is turned off. When asked to join, the tablet will actually ask you whether or not you want to connect to a certain hotspot. So if you come into the library, it will go ahead and ask you, would you like to connect to Dundee Library? There's an additional step for anyone who's ever tried to connect to our Wi-Fi. There's that little green button you gotta click. But if you turn this on, it will ask you every time. So you don't have to worry about being out in public and your device just connecting to just these random hotspots. So here, we are just going to turn that on. Okay, it is on. And now, every time we want to go ahead and connect to a connection point, it will go ahead and prompt us which one would you like to connect to and whether or not it should do it automatically. Now, this one is set so it's not done automatically. You will have to go ahead and let it know that you wish to connect to a certain hotspot, which is the more secure option. The next option is Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth is wireless communication. You can connect your device to a speaker. This is one of the most common options. Another very common option is to connect your device to accessories like a smartwatch, for example. But it's not always a good thing to go ahead and have Bluetooth on. Again, sometimes it will connect to devices you've already connected to automatically, which if that's what you want, that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and go over to Bluetooth. And in Bluetooth, you are able to audit what devices your device remembered. You can see here that this one has a pair of headphones connected to it. Now, the headphones are not here, so it didn't automatically pair to it. It would be a good thing to go ahead and audit any of the devices that you happen to have on this list. Again, there's only just the one, and right now it's searching to see if it can find more, and it's not going to find another one. But if there is a device on this list that you don't recognize, now some of them can be named a little oddly, but if you don't recognize it, on an iPad, you can tap this little blue eye right here, and you will be able to forget the device. Now, what that will do is that it will just sever that connection. And the next time you want to go ahead and connect to that device, it will ask you, hey, you're going to have to repair this. Repair, not repair like fixing. you will have to repair the device to your iPad, to your device, to your iOS device. And this is just a more secure way of knowing what exactly is paired to your device. In Android, to go ahead and audit what connection points are saved on your phone, as well as what Bluetooth devices are saved, I'm going to go over to the Settings app if you're not there already. And for most of this video, we've been focusing on the General tab. We are actually going to head on over to the Network tab. Click on the Network tab there because it is a connection. And you can see the very first thing here is Wi-Fi. So I'm going to tap on Wi-Fi. And you can see here that it is detecting all of the Wi-Fi signals that are around us. Right here. Now, in Android, and like I've said before, Android has many different versions and they can be a bit inconsistent. But if you happen to have the option, at the upper right hand corner, we have these 3 dots. Now, 3 dots typically mean there's additional options. So I'm going to tap on that, and you can see that I have saved Wi-Fi. So if I tap on that, I actually get a list of any saved Wi-Fi spots that my phone happened to connect to. And you can see that it's a fair amount. Now that doesn't mean that you were ever in those places, it just means that you just happen to connect to that Wi-Fi connection point. Now, for example, AA in-flight, that's American Airlines' in-flight air Wi-Fi. So if we say, well, we definitely don't need that anymore, it's not like we're traveling. So I'm going to hit that, and I can click forget. And it will just go ahead and forget it. If I go down to COW guest, I don't even know what this is. So I'm going to click on that and forget. Now you're definitely going to want to go ahead and do an audit of all of your connection points. Then anything you don't recognize, just go ahead and get rid of it. Let's see, Target. Got Target here, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so it's a very good security practice. Just go ahead and audit whatever connections you happen to be connected to if you don't agree with it. Now, if it's your personal home Wi-Fi, don't get rid of that. Alright, and then we're going to take another step back. And then right under Wi-Fi on this model, there is Bluetooth. So I'm going to click on Bluetooth. And yes, I know. Okay, now in Bluetooth, it will go ahead and give you paired devices. It'll tell you what the phone is called, so the V20. And it'll give you all of the paired devices. These are all of the devices that this phone is paired to. So we have the Fossil Sport, that happens to be my smartwatch, so I know what that is. We have other phones on here. We have a universal keyboard, etc., etc. Now, like I said earlier, different Bluetooth devices can be named something different. If you don't recognize what it is, best practice is to just go ahead and have the device forget it and just repair to it should you ever need it in the future. So if I come over here and I say, all right, okay, the universal keyboard. So I'm gonna press the cog here. All right, and we can see that we can edit the device name. If it's a device you use quite often, maybe it would be a good thing to go ahead and rename it just so you recognize it in case the default name just doesn't make sense. You can unpair it, so unpair that, and it's just gone from my list. So that means if I ever want to go ahead and use that universal keyboard again, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and go through the process of repairing those 2 devices. But much like Wi-Fi, it is a very good idea to go ahead and take a couple of minutes, take some time, and really audit what devices are connected to your phone, because these devices have access to your phone. So it is always a really good idea to know exactly what they are, what their function is, and whether or not you still need them on your device. Following these few but important steps will help keep your devices more secure than when they came out of the box. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to go ahead and call us here at the Dundee Library, and we will do our absolute best to try and help and answer any questions you may have. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you very much for watching.